So I'm calling the panelists up. So I'll call everyone at once, and then we'll give them one big round of applause. So I'd like to welcome up Paul, who's the Senior Global Creative Director at Kendo, LVMH brand, Chad, the CMO at Supersure, and Sravan from Lowe's. He's the Senior Director of AI Product Strategy, Platforms, and Partnerships. I was promised champagne in a glass at the end of this. Is that still okay? So thank you for all being with us still and waiting for that glass of champagne. This is going to be a fun one because I am most interested in the stories that you all have to share today. We're going to be talking about something that is on, or at least should be on the agenda in most executive rooms, which is how do we change our AI ambition into an actual roadmap, which we've been talking about a little bit today. And I guess silver lining is that there is AI ambition in most of these rooms now. But ambition will only get you so far. Intentions will only get you so far. The question is, how do we actually operationalize an organization behind this? So that's what we're going to get into today. I would bet that most of you are here because you've already had a vision of the future and you know that AI is a part of it. But I would also bet that you are dealing with the realities of the situation that you're in. So that might be organizational issues, tailwinds of what you're dealing with. So, for example, you could be an independent agency with limited funds, limited resources. You could be part of a huge organization with a lot of different decision makers. Or you could be building something from the ground up that is sort of limitless, and that in itself brings its own bag of issues and opportunities. So what I'm really excited about is that we have all different contexts and backgrounds represented here to talk about how you've been doing the real work of in your organization, making that ambition into actual cultural and commercial results. So we're going to dig into it. Let's go. And maybe some Q&A at the end. I know that hasn't really been happening yet, but I feel like there's going to be some good questions at the end of that. Okay, so I'm going to start, Paul. I'm going to start with you.
Sure.
So, yes, so Kendo, incredible brands. I will start and stop with Fenty, but there are many more within the house of Kendo, and then many, many more within LVMH. If you look at Fenty, that is a beauty brand that was built to disrupt the industry itself, and I have to imagine that there are incredibly high standards in the rooms that you're in of how that brand shows up, especially one that has such a purpose-driven belief behind it. So I'm curious, the conversations in the rooms that you're in, what is it like when you're introducing this technology, what are the conversations around what it looks like to build a brand, and how has it sort of changed over the year as you introduce more and more workflows into the system?
Yeah. Kendo is a beauty incubator first and foremost, with this major business unit in Fentyverse. I work on the emerging brand side, and so I work on brands that are either only ideas or brands that are kind of out there being turned around or accelerating in a different way. And so I think it's been said a lot today, but I think one of the key things, I'll take a step back. My inauguration into the AI technology was about 1.5 years ago. One of my favorite things about my job is working on brands that are just an idea that haven't been launched into the world yet. And the caveat with that kind of a brief is you can't spend any money, but you can do whatever you want ultimately, right? And so that was, we had an idea presented to our team last year, and I just went head first into all aspects of AI and creative generative AI, and I got completely swept in by the power of it, and had so much fun learning. I spent a lot of time on Comfy, but I spent a lot of time just understanding models and learning as much as I could about it to create this thing that hadn't been created yet. And so I saw the potential of that, and I really was very adamant that I brought that into my team and get my team going as fast as possible. possible. Because as on the emerging brand side, or when you're kind of building brands that don't exist quite yet, we always say like we really try to punch above our weight. We try to deliver against the LVMH expectations, but we don't really have the like budget to do it. And so really, to me, it was just about how do I get my team up to speed on this and get this unlocked with them, and unlock this tool with them, unlock this like technology with them, and that has been my biggest focus in the last like year. But in terms of expectations, it's been said today like several times, like to me, it's like the standards don't change, the human piece doesn't really change. You're still orchestrating the way you would have done a year ago, 2 years ago, but it's just the tools are way different, and you have a lot more ability to do things that you just haven't been able to do before. And so, that human piece, getting the tool in the right people's hands, that's really kind of the key to me. Like the expectations just haven't changed. It's just like the tools have, and just still living up to that. Being able to deliver on those expectations with these tools is really key. Sorry, ramble.
No, it's good, and it's you. I mean, I appreciate everyone's honesty about where they are in the journey and how you. I mean, a year and a half is not that long, but you've gone very deep in that time.
Yeah, look, we were playing around with it before for ideation stuff and things like that, but like the depth in which we've gone into it in the last year has really been like the major unlock.
Yeah, and would you say, if you were looking at like chapter 1 and chapter 2 of your creative career, if chapter 1 was evaluating creative in some of the more traditional processes, and chapter 2 is evaluating work that comes out of, say, the system, is the conversation about evaluating the creative itself the same, or does it differ?
I think it's the same. Like I think what I think is different maybe is the ability to do a lot of iterations and move and do a lot of like trying and testing things, but the output that we deliver is scrutinized incredibly, right? So it's like you can't walk in. Most people don't care where it came from at the end of the day, but if anything, I think it's gotten better, particularly when it comes to pitching brands or developing brands that are just ideas, but yeah, I think you can't walk into a room with that and feel, you have to feel good about the work, right? And so I don't think that's changed at all ultimately. I think if anything, like I said, you're just able to kind of like do a lot more iterations and even do things that maybe you thought you could never do, prior.
Chad, something completely different, I think, with Supersure. It feels like you're in a really unique position in that you're not necessarily sort of threading AI systems back into a model that's already been built, but you're building it as a part of it from the ground up, which, to my earlier thought, seems like it could be absolutely limitless, but that in itself is its own challenge because you have to sort of figure out where to focus. So I'm curious if you think about your career before Supersure and now, how does even approaching brand building change for you? Like when you think about what it means to be a brand from, if you still believe in the funnel from a funnel perspective, or if you think about the customer experience, how has that all changed when you're working within an organization where it's so inherent to who you are?
Yeah, I think everything has changed. Whenever you have this approach, you have to be very cognizant of the fact that you're building out intelligence to be everywhere rather than just, I think if I look at these organizations that have 10, 20, 30 years of kind of this foundation that has been built, there's ways that you're building a Ferrari engine and putting it in a horse carriage. That's one way of looking at it. But it's also, if you're building from the ground up, you have to really start from the ground up and know that every single thing that you're doing is a new approach. So when you have this career that has taught you how to do one thing one way for so long, and then you start to build out an entire department, you have to say, okay, well, is everything I know still relevant here to this conversation? Or am I completely starting from scratch, knowing the principles still are the ones to be applied? And I think that's been the most interesting part of what we've been building so far. From a marketing standpoint, I think you have campaigns still, because I'm not quite sure what else to call it, but really, when you have this intelligence everywhere approach, your brand becomes the system. And your system is telling you what your audience feedback is, because it's connected everywhere. So on every single platform, you're connected and you're listening to your customers. I think as marketers, we did as much research as possible to find out the information, to identify our brand voice that identifies with the audience, and then we put out the messaging and we tested it against it and said, I hope this works, right? Whereas now we're listening constantly. Everything's integrated. So from the sales teams are getting transcribed calls that we are then feeding that data feedback loop into our brand brain, and it is just all of these systems are in place, and that allows us to truly take a much deeper understanding of our client. And from that, I think the brand then becomes the product, because it's not just about what you say, it's about the experience that you're providing. And whenever you have this layer of like, we're starting with AI, there's a certain level of expectations that creates, because there's a little bit of forgiveness and, oh, we're adding AI to our systems and we are starting to improve our processes, whereas we're like, from the ground up, you have to kind of perform at that level.
What was one of the things you had to unlearn from the way that you used to do things?
I'm often wrong. I think if you don't completely open yourself up to the fact that even the ideas that you might share or have on this stage right now, I was talking about this at breakfast earlier, I haven't checked X, I don't know if Claude's latest model has been released, or I don't have the latest thing, so your worldview has to be able to shift at rapid pace. And I think getting the actual leadership team that has that adaptability too is very important, because it changes the entire way that you operate your division.
Yeah. Humility. Let's talk about Lowe's. So you are steps ahead of many of us, I think, in that many brands are just starting to sort of consider AI for marketing purposes. You've really used it across the whole organization, so whether it's the in-store experience or looking at really the whole ecosystem. And when we talk about moving from intention to really a roadmap, you've proven it in several different places of the brand. And I can imagine with an organization as large as Lowe's, it's probably no small feat to bring that organization with you. So can you speak a little bit about where the start of the discussion, the very, very start of the discussion happened, and where you are now in terms of the transformation?
Yeah, no, thank you for the question. Hey, everybody. Good afternoon. How many of you here had a chance to do your spring home improvement at Lowe's? Okay. All right. If not, you can use Lowe's AI assistant called Milo, which we launched about a year ago, so that's the plug there. But great question. We started about 2 years ago when ChatGPT came in, and one of the naive things that we did is asking the organization about, hey, what are the use cases that you have that you can solve with AI? And literally we had about 1,000 use cases, and we figured out that's not the right approach. So we got to figure out what is the right approach for us to do AI, because Lowe's is a $100 million company, 300,000 associates, and what we said is we're going to look at AI from the framework of how customers shop, how we sell, and how we work. So that's the strategic framework of what we said we're going to think about AI, and we said we're not going to go every function within the business. We're going to go with what we call lighthouse So think about these as 6 major areas within Lowe's that is going to drive top line, bottom line, and the customer experience. And then within those 6 lighthouses, we said we're going to focus on 20 use cases. So that's how we started our journey at Lowe's, and we are at a point where we moved beyond the lighthouse model because we believe we are matured a little bit now. So we have, especially this year, we have Pereira AI out to the broader company. We still go through the governance of are we building the right things and do we have the right use cases, but it's not centralized in any one team today, but that's our journey. We said we'll focus on a few things and we'll do those few things really, really well, and then we'll move on. We launched quite a few products within the last year. Milo is the first AI home improvement advisor. When you think about home improvement, it's not like any other retailer where you go buy groceries. Like it's complex in terms of every time it's about a project. I need to fix a leaky faucet. I need to build a raised garden bed, which means your AI should be contextualized to Lowe's, and we have tons of data internally, so that's where we started. And then we said our frontline associates, and we gave them AI as well. We call it as Milo Companion. End of the day, when you go to a Lowe's store, there are so many different functions. Even if you're working for 15 years or so, you might not be an expert in every other function. You could be an expert in plumbing, but not necessarily electrical. So the idea behind Milo Companion is how do we make sure our frontline associates feels the confidence of being any department and answer any questions. So that's how we were thinking about Milo Companion. And now we are in the last phase of our framework, which is how we work. Meaning we are now building AI tools within Lowe's corporate and our SSA functions to help support every both tech and non-tech functions. So that's how we think about AI at Lowe's.
It's interesting you talk about the frontline associates. Is that how you, so if you think about all the different layers of your organization, do you feel like the sort of spheres of influence or the employees who hold the most influence has changed in this implementation of AI by providing more of these systems? Do you feel sort of the force moving within a really large organization because of it?
I think so. I think there is 2 ways to essentially what we call as adoption is the product, is what we say, right? You can build really great tools, but if nobody is using it, then it's meaningless. The way we approach at Lowe's is we took both the top-down approach of having the C-suite and the executives fully brought into what AI can do and what are the possibilities. So that's one approach, which means we always have the initiatives from top down in terms of what we should be working on. But we're also doing more of a bottoms-up champion programs. Essentially think about these as a peer-led networks within the organization that talk about AI, that share with each other in terms of how it could benefit them. So I think this approach of, hey, we're going to handle both the top-down and then also do bottoms-up is helping us really well. We believe adoption is more of it's not just a good product, people are going to use it, especially with someone like Lowe's, but we got to bring AI into the workflows, and if it is helping them be productive, or if it is helping them not do the mundane tasks they want to do every day, they are going to use it, so that's one approach we're doing.
I want to go back to something you said, Chad, that is sticking in my head and sort of open it up for a conversation to the floor. You mentioned having the right leadership team in place with the right mentality, and I don't think you used the word resilience, but that was a word that sort of popped into my head, knowing how difficult this work is. It's iterative, it's draining, it's redefining what a workday looks like. It's sort of a different muscle that we haven't maybe used or used to this degree. So I think a question for all of you, your organizations, what behaviors have you seen in the leaders who have really thrived in this environment? What behaviors have you seen them exhibit? And what has been sort of the most impactful when you're thinking about okay, I'm not just trying to implement a roadmap. This roadmap means nothing if I can't bring the organization with me and compel people to move with me on this journey.
I think it's exactly that. I think the biggest bottleneck that you're going to see across organizations is alignment. When everyone can build everything, determining what to actually build and move forward with is the big problem. And having the right leadership in place that can guide a team and point in the right direction is, I think, critical. And to give an example of that, like if you took one CEO and 4 creatives and put them in a room, put them in a war room with a bunch of laptops, same technology as anybody else that has access to, that is a dangerous team because they're all in the same room, they're all communicating, they all know the North Star and they're headed directly in that direction, and they're not playing around and making a bunch of noise. Whereas if you don't have the right leadership in place, and I'll say that with that caveat, if you hand the same technology to an organization with 20,000 people, right? Everybody's building everything and it goes everywhere. There needs to be a leadership team that drives everybody back into this narrow pathway of this is the direction we're going. You don't want to just chase shiny objects. You want to make sure that the alignment is there, and I think communication is key, and project management is more important than ever. We're seeing project managers become the engineers, which is also just fascinating. And I think you're starting to see like the mid-level management start to disappear, and it's going straight to, and I believe someone earlier was saying the adoption of higher up leadership from the director level and above is happening at a rapid pace, and I think that's probably true because they are held to be accountable, and now they're taking on responsible as well. And I think that's where we are right now.
You got to think about one of the bigger constraints we have before, let's say, even 6 months ago, is building and shipping faster, right? Now the constraint is mostly gone. Now the constraint becomes, okay, what do I need to build? Which is the taste and the judgment. So to Chad's point, it's about alignment and bringing the focus back to the organization. One thing you'll notice, especially when you're a big organization, is there's a lot of ideas that you want to go implement. But you still need to realize just because I can build a prototype within a few minutes, that doesn't mean you just keep building your prototypes every single day. End of the day, you got to think about what is your metrics and what is the value that you're creating. So I think it is really important, especially in the age of AI, to focus more on, we call this as a data to dollar framework. So essentially, how do you take the data and how do you generate the dollars? End of the day. So how do we make sure value realization is still the thing that you should be thinking about, not just building prototypes?
Sorry, one thing on that, but also not losing sight of what the customer experience is and what you're actually doing to service.
100%.
Because I think we build things and we get excited and we talk about our products and look at can do all this. At the end of the day, the customer doesn't care about the cool tool you built. They care about what the service you're actually providing for them is, which goes back to marketing and selling 101. It's about the customer.
Yeah, I think it's essentially everything that they've said. It's like getting alignment, but I think it's messy. Like, I'm not gonna lie, it's very messy. Everyone wants to understand it and embrace it and identify the pilot projects, identify the right tools, and I think it's kind of percolated from the middle up, I think, with our organization, but it's now I think that there's this phase where everyone's like, okay, like let's put a framework in place here. Let's figure out how to really unlock this in a lot of different ways. But I think the key is like, and we've just identified that, is that like, okay, how do you get these different parts all in the same room to have the right conversations and implement the right tools? And that's something that it didn't take us it took us a long time to kind of just get there. Like, I feel antsy about it, but I'm sort of leading it. But I think general consensus is that, okay, we're starting to figure that out now. Like, we're just getting all the right people in the room, identifying the right tools, the right processes.
Yeah.
So those tools.
It's messy. Can we get into the messiness a little bit? Okay. Well,
Sure.
you can get messy if you want to get messy, but is there a decision, considering you're all leaders of an organization, a decision that you personally can think back on where you were like, ugh, in hindsight, I wish I went a different route on this journey that we've been on? Or if you don't want to get to the messiness, that's okay. Is there a decision that, to your point about unlocking, where there was one, it can be really tactical or practical, but just something that you did where suddenly you were like seeing the fruits of the labor?
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather give you a decision that was right, that's because,
Both are helpful.
which wasn't easy to get to, but just being able to honestly just identify a tool that would get my team going. And that was like, and seeing that, and me not being totally sure if it was going to work, but then seeing them embrace it and then do amazing things with it, then I was like, people that were in some cases very reluctant to even embrace AI, to see them go, wait a minute, like this is actually going to change a lot of the way I do things. That, and then seeing people adopt it so quickly and like start to create really great stuff with it, that was like fun. That was like
Just lit up.
yeah, that was like I was like, whoa, and not knowing if it was just going to be like, like you know, I'm not into it, or I can't get my head around it, or being, but actually seeing them kind of embrace it and take it on, and then all of a sudden create amazing kind of work with it.
It's just the sandbox.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Can you talk to us a little bit about maybe that first meeting where you introduced it?
yeah, like one of the things, like being so, you know, I guess passionate, but also just seeing the potential of everything, all the models and the platforms that were out there, and just like trying everything I could. I just really wanted to. I knew that my team would get a lot out of it, and I've been was sort of slowly trying to like get my team involved. But when we built this sandbox, very intentionally to like make it accessible but still very powerful, and have access to like all the best tools within it, and have the modularity to it, ability to kind of change it still and build workflows with it. That sort of was the number one goal, because I knew my team needed to start using it right away. They needed to change their lives right away, right? Change their professional lives right away. And so with all the kind of work that Silverside did and we did together, like we created that tool that just let them, we made it very intentionally accessible in the chat kind of interface, but had all these special little tools wrapped around it that made them be able to do even better things. And so just seeing them kind of go, seeing these 10 people kind of go, okay, we get it, and then a week later seeing the work that they were doing, whether it was in a pitch or whether it was just actually finished work, was like, this is awesome. Like,
Yeah.
This is just the beginning.
Like seeing the light bulbs go off in the team around you.
That was special.
Yeah, we talk about, so the sandbox we talk about as a brand brain. So if you think about like classically the brand books that you would spend months creating for Skittles or Snickers or any brand that you worked on, and it would be this really static document. Instead, you're building the sandbox or a brand brain where it's living and breathing and you can interact with it to make things, and it's exciting.